All right, what is up, guys? So today I'm bringing you another video on the coop. Um, Obviously, as you can tell, it's winter time, so that's the time to kind of go through everything and make sure it's all good before we start the next year. And I know this is not off all the way, but that's fine. Um, Unfortunately, before the end of the season, kind of like winter came, I developed an oil cooler leak over here. I kind of poorly routed this AN line fitting and the whole AN line. I didn't cut it when I put this all in, so it's all mangled in here, and it's not really the greatest way I could have ran it. So the goal for tonight, which this one's fine up top. I'll show you guys in a second, but the top one's okay. This bottom one here is the one that's leaking. I think it was on such a bend that it's causing it to pull the AN line out of the fitting. So my solution for that is I'm going to cut the line down and route it so that way I can either put this straight dash 10 fitting on, or I could put this kind of 45 bend. And I'm thinking the 45 bend is going to work a little better because of where I have my plates for the splitter. I have them right down here, which I do also have to readdress this situation this year because I did break the other one off on this side, which is something that I've needed to do for a while, and it finally decided to do its thing and, you know, came out of a Dunkin' parking lot one day, my last time driving it to work, and kind of tore the splitter off. So, splitter's okay, but bracket adjustment, I gotta take care of that. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about my oil cooler setup. As you can see, I have the oil thermostat housing from Musselman. So I have a feed line that comes down behind the fan and all the little lines and stuff like that. Comes down, feeds to the top of this, drains out to the bottom, and then it kind of does a wacky little flow, which is probably exactly what happened here. It follows to this oil cooler because there's a fitting up here, goes down around and then up, and then feeds all the way back up to the top of the return side on the thermostat. Um, I will say that obviously I am no master fabricator, so for the most part, what I've done is working pretty good. Typically, when we run that FCP track on a hot day like we did this year a few times, I was only hitting about 240 to 245 degrees oil temp. Yes, that's high, but on such a small track with me pushing it as hard as I would, it was really working out pretty well. Before I had done any of this the year prior, I think I was hitting about 255 to 260, and it would kind of start creeping up to that point where it's going to go into limp mode. So I got one oil cooler and it helped. I had done the oil thermostat, at the same time as I did that, and I was running this block fitting, which really just wasn't working. It just kept leaking. The O-ring would not seal properly. I'd have to do it like every week. It was kind of annoying. So I got this second oil cooler, and it had a different type of fitting connector where the two AN lines were separate, and it just had a small little bracket they slide into, and it bolts up to the bottom of it. And honestly, knock on some wood, but it hasn't had any leaks since. Obviously, I have this, but that's different. So, as you guys can see, like I was saying, this fitting right here, right where this bend is, I think it's so aggressive that it's just pulling itself out, so it's starting to seep over there. It might have been that this got loose, maybe, but I'm really betting on this fitting coming out because there's like a little bit of oil kind of tracing up there too. So the goal is, like I said, this one's okay. And by the way, I bought this. These are both oil coolers, are eBay oil coolers. They're nothing too fancy or special. They're holding up really good, but the only problem I have with it is that these brackets, they never came with brackets. So I had like the oil cooler kind of like zip tied. There was a big zip tie here, and it was working really well. But obviously, I mean, over time, this whole bracket assembly, it pulled out of the freaking subframe. So I got to riv nut that. but for the most part, it was working pretty good. Just got to make a couple revisions on it. So I'm going to pull this fitting out, and then we're going to pull the line back and see how much room I've really got to work with, which I think is this whole line that's right here, honestly. This whole bottom line. Obviously, we have a zip tie here because good old zip ties do the magic trick. Some pretty clean oil. Kind of figured it would be clean because I think I did a fresh oil change just before the end of the season anyways, so. Now, a couple tips that I learned along the ways of cutting oil lines and stuff like that, specifically these. When you're cutting them on a car like this, I tend to use a hose clamp to line yourself up because you can just use the edge of this to kind of guide your cut, so you cut it nice and straight, for the most part at least. And also wrap it in some tape, either electrical tape or something of the sort, because when you start to cut through this, when you're using like a Milwaukee grinder or whatever, you start to get, like, the fibers start to get frayed, and when they get frayed, it kind of makes it a pain in the nuts to get it inside of this fitting here, because you gotta first thread this guy in this way, and you kind of just twist it in there until it locks in, and then obviously you put this in after and you tighten this all the way down, but it really helps to keep everything from fraying. So I'm going to cut this, and then I'll show you the process of setting up the actual fitting itself, and then we'll see how we're going to run it here. So I did this as an example to show you guys what I meant by getting frayed. When you don't follow or use the tape itself and you cut, it'll just get all frayed like this. This is like a section I wanted to cut off anyways, but just wanted to show you guys what I meant by it would get frayed. So we'll take some electrical tape here after I wipe my hands off and clean up this spot again. We'll take the electrical tape and we'll just put it around here. Give it like a couple wraps. So that when you're cutting it, it won't fray out like that. I'll show you what that looks like. So after one trial with this style fitting that I had on there, where I was going to go to the 45, doesn't look like it's going to work very well. So I found this other one that I had that's 90 degree, and this one actually threads onto the AN line. So a little ice there. So when we put it in, which now it's going to be much tighter because I already had one on. We're going to be able to twist this one in. Not like these ones that you have to twist in because they kind of lock into place. I much prefer that over the other one that was kind of just like sliding on. Basically, you just keep twisting it until it hits the end because it bottoms out. I feel much more confident with these ones. Like I said, just because it threads on. The other one obviously didn't. But yeah, see, it's even closer now than it was before. Just because you can twist it up onto there. Need a little more grip. But like now it fully bottomed out and you could see right at the end of the hose here. Which is way better. It's a little bit off-centered, unfortunately. But won't be a problem because we'll just take this guy, put it in here. Oops. And then, tighten this all up. Then I can actually put this in a better location than what it was going because I had it kind of aimed at the core support, and where it was going to rub wouldn't be any good. I'll go ahead and get this mounted up, and I'll show you guys what I got left. So now, this is what we're working with. A much more sturdy setup then definitely this guy. Took me a lot more effort to put this one on, so I feel a lot more confident. And then the good thing is the metal piece is going to be what's on the rubbing up against the bracket when this is fully mounted back up. So be a little extra happy about that. And then this just goes straight, like perfectly straight to the actual other AN line. All right. So as you can see, this is how I decided to run them. I saw that this one was rubbing a little bit over here. I actually just cut this piece out because I'm going to mount the splitter up here, and it should give me enough room in between here to mount the bracket where I want to go. At first, it looked like this was leaking and it was kind of tweaking me out, so I redid it again, and that's why it looks all beat up, because I don't have the AN wrenches, but whatever, I use adjustables. And basically what was going on was, I think there was oil that was just saturated in this line, so as it heated up and expanded, some of that oil came out because I kept cleaning it, and I was like, what the heck? And then it never came back again. So I don't know. Seems good now. Luckily, I obviously zip tied this back into place because this is kind of, it's in there but not. You know what I'm saying? That's hot. Ow. Same thing up here. Zip tied that one into place. Zip tied that one back. And then I zip tied these two together because where this is running up underneath here, it's not hitting anything finally. Same thing with this one. This one was kind of like rubbing up in it. So yeah, this might obviously look pretty tacky, minus this freaking thing here. But basically, the whole reasoning I even did any of this was so I could just take the bumper off. Obviously, I didn't fully take it off this time, but basically what this allows me to do is just kind of line it up like this. And obviously I have my holes here and there for my splitter, and yeah, that's awesome. That was like that before me. Don't blame that on me. I bought the car like this. I've just never bought a new bumper yet because I thought about it and I can't find one anyway, so oh well. But basically with this, I can take it, if this guy wasn't in the way, pull it back into place, right? And we take these little latches here, and this lines up my front bumper for me. So that way if I load it up onto the trailer, that's all I have to do. I don't have to unbolt all of this stuff. I mean, yeah, I still do have the push clip here, and I got to make sure this side's in place too before I go putting the other side in. Basically, I just push it down, push it back, grab the outside one first, because that pulls it into place where it needs to go. The front one is what uses most of the brunt work there, and it lines it up pretty good. Kind of, at first I didn't really like it, but the convenience of it, like really having to pull these two tabs out, put this little bolt back into place here, it's a lot more convenient than having to rip everything off at once. And this year when I put the new splitter on, I'm going to make it so that way those can quick detach too, so that way I don't have to struggle to pull those off, because like I said, when you get to the track, the most important part of your day, at least in the morning, is just setting up. Whether it's a 135, a 335, 535, N54, N55, if you're going to bring any of these cars to the track, I 10 out of 10 recommend you do some sort of cooler setup. You know, you can go into limp mode pretty quickly, pushing it pretty hard. I've luckily been fortunate to not have to go through limp mode and deal with that. But that's not to say that, you know, on a really, really, really hot day, like a 95-degree day or something, if you're hauling on the track, that you wouldn't hit limp mode. Again, I've only done the small FCP tracks with this car. I did Lime Rock, the big course, with the Legacy GT. That was a blast. But I guess only this year will tell how this one does at the track on like an actual big track. Like, comment, subscribe, see 2 more content. You'll see all the M3 stuff coming up. and probably some Volvo stuff. So peace.